Well, speaking of kids, when it comes to fasting, can kids ever fast? And if they can, at what age would you say it's safe?
Younger children shouldn't fast, but you shouldn't force them to eat either. So they are very self-guided. I learned as a parent that every time my kids said, I don't want that food, they were right. Now, it's different if your kids say, I only want to eat the french fries. But if I'd serve them the foods that they liked, here's some grass-fed steak, here's some broccoli. Like, I didn't want the broccoli tonight, Daddy. And if I'd say, shut up and eat your broccoli, I'm like, oh, that's funny. All of us felt like crap the next morning because that broccoli actually wasn't good. It had, it's called Alternarium brassica. It's a type of mold that grows on brassica family. And all of us slept poorly and like didn't feel good. And the kids were cranky. And we all wanted dessert, which means we ate a food toxin. They knew. And so kids have a really good self-guidance that also can be like candy, candy, candy. But if you teach your kids not to eat candy and you teach your kids they don't get to pick what the food is and you put out food that they normally eat and they don't want to eat it, like, okay, that's fine. My daughter who's 13, she's like, Daddy, I really don't like having breakfast. Like, I just don't like when I'm home, I don't want to eat anything until noon. And I'm like, that's great. You don't have to. Right. But if she did when she was 6, I'd say, let's wait a couple hours and you can have something. But because we are wired as parents to feel as if our children are us, our energy field is actually extended out and our children are a part of our energy field. It's stronger for mothers, but it's also there for dads. And we're holding them in our energy. Right. So when we feel like our children might be starving, what was that about the survival of the species? Okay. That's in there. And every parent on earth will take their last bite of food and give it to their kid if it's actual starvation. So when we feel our children might be starving, we do what the stereotypical parents do. Oh, here, eat, eat, eat. And it sets our children up for failure. So what I do in my house is, hey guys, um, this is, I guess, when they were younger, they don't do it anymore. But my son's like, Daddy, I'm not going to eat this. I just don't want to eat this tonight. And it was whatever the broccoli was or whatever. And this wasn't a case of the broccoli was good. It was just, asserting control. Uh, and I said, oh, that's awesome, Alan. You've decided to join me in an intermittent fast. We won't starve to death for about 60 days. So we can just put the food back in the fridge and we both won't eat. And then he looks at me and then he eats his dinner. Right? So that you're not going to starve if you don't get the candy is a big thing. Also, don't feed your kids candy anyway. But should you force a kid to fast? Never. If a child's curious about fasting, I think it's fine for them to do it. And I relay the story in the book. My son was probably 9 at the time. He's 11 now, maybe even 8. But we've been talking about fasting a lot. And I said, oh, I'm going to fast for a couple days. And he'd seen me do it a few times. And he said, Daddy, I've decided I want to try fasting for 24 hours. And I said, really? Okay. You're not allowed to fast regularly because you're too young for that. You want your body to know that we live in a land of abundance and that it's safe to grow and, become as strong as it possibly can be because there's no limitation on resources. But yeah, you can fast. And I said, you might want to have a little bit of black coffee. My kids drink coffee. They always have because coffee is good for you. And kids metabolize caffeine quite well. They just, they get half a cup in the morning. That's fine. And so you might want to have some coffee because it'll make it so you're less hungry. And he goes, no, I actually want to feel the fast so that I know what it's like. So I don't want to try any of the fasting hacks. I'm just going to do it. And he did it. And, it was a great act of willpower for him, but he was showing himself who was in charge. And it was amazing. And when he finally broke his fast, he goes, Daddy, you're right. Fasting really is the best spice. This is the best meal I've ever had. And since then, he hasn't wanted to fast. Every now and then, say, I don't want breakfast. That's fine. Right. So we don't force them to eat, but we don't encourage them to fast. We don't allow them to fast. The same is true for teenagers. Look, if a teenager wants to intermittent fast several times a week, that's fine. But you need to have a protein breakfast the other days. If you're working out that day, if they're in track or whatever, then they eat a protein and fat breakfast. And they're not allowed to go out and exercise a lot because a lot of teenagers, especially girls, they'll get to that like, oh, I'm just not going to eat very much. I'm going to do all the things I do. And they don't have the wiring to be aware of their state to realize, oh, I'm acting the way I'm acting and I can't focus because I either don't have the right nutrients or because I'm not eating enough. So I think it's important that you don't over encourage that. And that my kids, if they want to intermittent fast every day, I'd say no. But if they want intermittent fast 3, 4 days a week, fine. But my kids are now 11 and 13 and they're getting to that point. And when they were younger, no way. Um, you guys eat lunch and dinner and usually breakfast. The other thing about kids, they do not need to eat 6 times a day. They might need to eat 4 times a day. They might need to eat 3 times a day. And my daughter came home from first or second grade and she said, Dave, or not Dave, she said, Daddy, as soon as I get to school, the teachers start talking about our snack. And we get there, and then all the other kids are hungry, but I don't even want to eat. Don't the other kids have breakfast? And I said, "Well, Anna, go ask them what they have for breakfast." And she comes back, she says, "Oh, my vegan friend has a green apple for breakfast." I'm like, "Anna, if you had a green apple, would you be hungry?" And she goes, "Yes." And I said, "Well, there you go. They're eating the wrong breakfast, so then they feel like they need to eat 2 hours later." And she says, "I wish the teacher wouldn't make me eat a snack because I really don't want the snack. I'm full until lunch." So she would like fake eating a snack that she didn't want. Okay, this is what happens. You feed children enough of the right fats and the right protein. What's she having for breakfast? Smoked salmon from Costco, wild caught smoked salmon, which is good, and avocados, right? Or bacon and eggs, right? Or other things like that that are rich in fat and rich in protein. And then they're satiated. And as a parent, what this does for you, Jesse, you get enough interruptions from children because they don't have filters. If the interruption is, can I have candy? Can I have candy? Can I have candy? I'm hungry, 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 hungry. Man, it's exhausting for parents. It's exhausting for kids. And when you feed them right, they don't do that. So it's more about the right food and permission to skip a meal, but not regularly skipping a meal. Long answer, but I think it's a really important nuance for parents.